The movie begins with a kid watching a video featuring people who are surprised by the wreck of the masculine idea that Daxian females have spent thousands of years building. The kid is confused by the movie and inquires where exactly is he rejuvenated. 2 days have passed since he came here in this world, but at the same time is not able to adapt to the heavy human body and this strange world. The individual was ruler of his era while arriving at this world and now gets awakened up in a high school student's body. He passed through a horrible array of sights on arriving here and is amazed to see a whole lot of attacks on people, which in ordinary times would be unimaginable. In this world of high times, no cultivators exist and the human perceptions are turned upside down. A lady in this location married a wife, bears a daughter, tries to sustain the family in terms of money, and the wife does the house chores. For his usage, the worst in this world is that supernatural power here is low and his soul is broken, so it is difficult for him to regain his solidarity. Since the king has given the hint, the evil presence is growing with an enormity of strength, and as both of them were unable to cover the endless vacuum, both of them lost their bodies, and it was all because of karma that he remained alive. It was also a supernatural event that his ghost took a trip to the hereafter with perfect timing to arrive at a just-died corpse and be rejuvenated after plummeting into the bewilderment of the void. The body he is in belongs to a boy from a town with Lin Mo who is a spoiled child, a student at a prestigious secret secondary school. He doesn't know the dark force he envied was also brought back to life, so for the time being he has to make the decision to continue his life as Lin Mo and learn at secondary school. Understudy Lin Mo's parents died in a car accident when he was young, and his grandmother is also responsible to the emergency room with Alzheimer's disease. As he was allowed, his useless auntie was his doorman, and the whole family settled in with him. Before the child can enjoy what's happening, they took everything of his. The child was weak and had no one to rely on, so he had no choice but to accept all of it in silence. The ruler gets weary putting on the uniform and comes out where there is the child's family gathered at the breakfast table. Auntie Lin Lai cares for Lin and explains to him that the attachment of the young woman Yan Hui is a grown-up's prank. The king remembers the memories of the child and realizes that Yan Hui was the young lady whom his granny had groomed him to marry, but was turned down by her, saying that she cannot be interested in someone as fat as him. Lin was heartbroken by this and lost focus on how to cross the street and got knocked down by a truck, which caused his death and the head that contained his body. The wedding agreement is abandoned by his auntie, and at the breakfast table, the head admonishes them sternly not to arrange for a marriage. The family cannot comprehend Lin's new method of behavior, while the sovereign quietly eats and does not take the trouble to starve this human skeleton. At breakfast time, his cousin goes on talking about Lin's potential to transform the school. But the king declares that he is very satisfied with the school currently and goes ahead to eat without any interest in wasting his time chatting with the silly boy. After 1 hour, they travel to the school in batches, but Lin's cousin tells him to stay back before he departs, explaining that he would not want to be seen with Lin. When they arrive at the school, the ruler is impressed with the engineering, but he dislikes the young men showing their legs and the young women making remarks about them. Then he reminds himself not to get distracted by any of them and focus on becoming more stable prior to evil presence admired. As a consequence of experiencing Lin's memories, he ends up in senior class 2 and continues there. When he enters the class, the young lady begins teasing him by calling him the sweetheart of Yan Hui and inquiring if he had professed his love yet. The king is exasperated with the idiotic manner of human beings and is contemplating a retake, but it is difficult for her to simply bedeck his body without the help of supernatural power and general good luck. Yunshu interrupts him in the thought by stopping Lin's dinner companion in mid-sentence that Yan Hui would never approve of him unless he lost some weight, and she can help him with that. The sovereign realizes that the young lady requires something from the child and bluntly inquires about this to the young lady, who is taken aback. Yunshu indicates she requires some form of aid from him, but the head does not care what it is. The young woman invites Lin to listen, and lets him know that he does not need to do anything but play around with her, and sooner or later, she would take him to a more handsome young woman than Yanhui. She informs him that she is going to take him to Waju Mountain to see the spectacular night sky during mid-year, since won't ever reach the top if his destination was to be reached alone. The benefit of the ruler is maximum when he recalls to mention the fact that the massive mountain gathers deep energy, and that this 5-bamboo mountain is among the best mountain locations surrounding, which implies that there is an excellent possibility that magical energy will tend to accumulate on it. After making the decision that this could be an ideal time for him to obtain the supernatural ability, he consents to assisting the young woman in causing some trouble. Yunshu is pleased with his intel and informs that she already booked an appointment with a Class 3 student and they can utilize the PC Club computers after school. They visit the PC Club during school hours, and Yunshu informs Lin that nobody would disturb them because she specially dropped all the club practice. They logged in using their respective IDs and begin playing the topic activity game. In the course of playing the game, the ruler comes to the conclusion that the blade's body growth forever, spell of enchantment, and sword flying high in the eternal background are all much the same as this game strategy that leads him to believe that there might be actual immortals living in this world, so he must watch out. His extended combat practice time is assisting her in the game, since still outstanding in the balance to avoid being slain by a human whether within or outside the game. The head in Lin's body has an incredible game and outclasses the champion player, but upon arrival, Yunshu is surprised to encounter him all sweating. Meanwhile, the monarch is shocked in consideration of the fact that he has no idea about the possibility that the real body will be severely injured by the use of supernatural power to further enhance it. The female character Yutang as Lin's counterpart does not want to lose and continues to pursue his character, but her character in the game is slashed on the knee by the spear thrown by the head's character. Her co-conspirator tells her that it is over because they lost, and therefore they should just let it out, but Yutang loses his temper and tells her to send the other team's players over immediately. When Yunshu is summoned for the news, she willingly agrees to take them in, and then strides over to Lin, congratulating him on his amazing game. She does not report to her, and then afterwards sends the next reminding her that she should not forget what she told her. Lin then goes home and climbs into bed in a rush because the head thinks that the body of a human being is not strong enough. The next day, following Lin's alighting from the car at school, his cousin accompanies him and says that Yanhui had asked him to tell his friends that the marriage proposal is fake, and now he is receiving her welcome to Beta Ekatank. Lin just departs, saying there is good reason need to establish what is fake, infuriating his cousin. When he comes to the class, he is greeted by Yunshu, who never fails to inform him that yesterday's opponent of the player in their game was Yutang from their institution. She informs him that Zuji can see him or Mama Baby, his game tag, and assures him that she would never do anything to anyone. Lin indignantly replies that he is not a Momo child, but before they can continue discussing, they are interrupted by Yanhui slapping her hand on his table, telling them today they have to clarify, since he is elucidating their marriage is not pretentious. Yunshu obstructs their path, saying that she is doing too much with Lin, but Yanhai asks if she loves Lin. Lin informs Yanhai that whether they hear that they are getting married or otherwise, there is no hope for them. Yanhai is quite taken aback by his reaction, but tells him that at never a time should he ever tell anyone that he is getting married to her because it irritates her. She informs him that whenever she went to his residence, it was not to catch a glimpse of him. Lin does not mind what she says, while his classmates find it puzzling why he performs so well in so many activities. Yutang suddenly appears along with their friends and says whoever is Momo child to come out. Yunshu sprints towards Lin, who is resentful due to the fact that he is the king, yet people are referring to him as Momo child because of this human form. Yunshu apologizes to Lin that she simply wants to play a game with him alone, and he must play along with her first before he kills or slashes anything he wants. Yunshu is stunned when she sees Lin fleeing from class because she had believed that the player she is looking for is a woman. When Lin comes to school, she asks him whether he was the one who went too far with her the previous day. And then after checking tells him to call her after school since she needs to play a game with him alone. Lin responds that he does not play the games and he will beat her in the name of karma and walks back to his gang. Yutang indignantly asks if that husky boy does not know that she is someone to whom her friend responds that he was dumped and now he has no love and therefore is not bothered with her. Yutang leaves after requesting her friend to bring Lin here early afternoon. When Lin returns to class, everyone is curious, and they ask him for what good reason Yutang needed to speak with him. He walks slowly to his seat where Yunchu informs him that Yutang liked yesterday's game so to play a game by himself. He could play with her as often as he desired. She then leans closer to him and whispers to him that she is going to take him to the mountain and will get him some young girls, but Lin informs her not to bring anyone along. Yunchu straightaway recalls them as being far from everyone else in the mountains and says to him that she doesn't notice people if she is wearing a skirt and advises him not to gaze at her as she is worse than Yen Hui, which makes the sovereign annoyed with her manner of conduct. When the class ends, Yutang's friend goes back to their group to pick up Lin with her, but surprisingly he had already left the class. The head in Lin's body heads to the cafeteria following class and receives his lunch as a subject of gossip rather than eating there since people always comment on Lin's fat body. Since he has not yet acclimatized to the loud human world, he avoids the cafeteria and proceeds to a serene location to eat his lunch. Meanwhile, the other understudy named Zinni's body gets taken over by a devil who informs the young lady that she is suffering from a debilitating illness and there is no doubt she will be dead within a year. This is what the wicked force makes her live. She should unite with this godliness since they already share a destiny due to their similarity in names, and she will further attempt to fulfill all her future desires. Since Zinni agree with her, the evil spirit states that she made the right choice, and from now on 18 years of Zinni's life will become part of her life too. The evil spirit states that it is sad that in her whole life's happiness and sadness are a small part for her. The wicked spirit then thinks to herself that she actually worked day and night for a long time at last murdered the ruler. But finally, she was not so satisfied as she imagined and felt hollow. The most important thing which should be achievable in what's next is to revive the evil presence world, but she is concerned about the reality that maybe that the ruler has many cards so he will not die very effectively, and maybe he is also fallen into this world, so she must beware. Barring all this great list of challenges to her, this world is equally fascinating on the basis that in the devil world, no matter how hard she attempted, she could not get her dad's nod on the basis of being a female. The men there treated her contemptuously and had to keep her until she donned the veil of abhorrent spirits and murdered them so that they fear her, but in this world, men are the halted assembly and the growth isn't wicked. Anyway, the strong impact in this world appears to be missing somehow, and also she is just too beautiful to be stalked by young men. She is preoccupied with the fact that Lin is stalking her and turns around to face him when he approaches closer. She instructs him not to walk behind her and lets him know that it is unthinkable between them, but Lin reacts not at all to her and just goes off. The demon is surprised at this and doubts herself in that she wants to restore her dignity immediately and depart this world. She somehow keeps on walking behind Lin as if in his wake. When Zinni notices that Lin is heading towards the housetop, she reconsiders going there and instead seeks a different place. She stops when she feels that normal students do not go to the housetop, and because people are weak in this world, Lin might head in that direction to commit suicide. She decides to turn her head away at first, but at that moment through the memories of Zinni, she gets to know that she too ended her life and asks if she needs to save her. When she hears the good news, she runs to the rooftop where Lin is sitting on the edge of the railing, just enjoying the freshness in the air. She first tries to use her powers to knock him off, but remembering that she no longer possesses them, she panics and runs and drags him down from the balcony. Lin falls on top of her, almost breaking her rib in the process with his weight. He gruffly inquires about how she is managing, which Zinni answers that she just needed to ask what he will do and if he wants to go to a peaceful place. He is not supposed to inflict any suffering. The leader is surprised at how depressed he must have looked that she thought he is trying to kill himself, and then offers him a hand, saying that her creative mind is so packed with ideas because he is just enjoying the cool wind and not trying to jump off the building. He then tells her that he is not encouraged by her either, and she goes crazy and tells him to vanish. When he comes back to the class, Yunshu asks him where he had gone since Yutang, and the other students were looking for him since they told him to go back home. Lin is dissatisfied with this and tells her that she created this problem, so now she has to solve it alone. She informs him that she will accompany him after school, and he can play with Yutang in the context of the fact that she required more FN yesterday, and if he allowed her to kill him in the game, she will allow him to be as well. Lin informs that he is not going. Yunshu states that they cannot play tricks on Yutang on the basis that she is the eldest Yu family young lady whom Lin states gave him a tough time. Yunshu explains that she never thought that he should areas of strength for be urge him to accompany her maxim that she would do anything for him and he eventually agrees to her proposal of grill, reminding her again to not forget Waju Mountain. As he comes out of the homeroom, Lin is thinking about how he himself had cracked the girl's ribs and then thinks that it will be okay. The king is thinking that he had forgotten that the young woman's body here is weak, the ribs of which would have been cracked, but yet he is confused when he didn't see any ambulances, assuming she was fainting on the roof. He imagines himself getting arrested by the police, assuming something has happened to that girl, assuming that human lives are really valuable in this world. After considering that, he thinks need to monitor the girl and decides to make a dash for the rooftop. At the same time, the evil spirit in the body of Zinni is confused by the constraint of human flesh because she was unable to move following the injury and still lies on the rooftop. She is cold since it is windy there and screams for help because her phone battery is also drained. The devil is extremely ashamed that she must cry for help with enjoying herself because she confesses to being hard on earth, the head being the one specifically who truly can hurt her but still fell from the hands of a plump man. Suddenly Lin appears there again, surprised by her as she inquires of what good reason is he there again. He quietly sits beside her and pokes at her ribs. They are really broken in order to estimate that they. He does not even realize an annoyed Zinni and tells her that she is really fragile, which led to the accident, and she has to keep herself busy with some activity. Zinni becomes upset with his comment and reminds him that she deals with things in a better way than him who stays overweight to the extent of breaking her ribs. He once again brushes her aside, takes off his plain jacket, and throws it around her shoulders, informing her that it is really cold windy up here and she has to take care of herself being a lady. Lin then informs her that this issue started because she misunderstood, so he will order a rescue wagon for her and they will not owe each other anything in the future. When Zinni tells him to go get his coat, Lin says that he knows she might not need his clothes as he is fat, but she should take it because she has a weak body and she can just throw it away when the rescue truck will come to take her away. The devil to herself believes that as a deity she is not supposed to hate any human form, and the chubby boy is a nice kid even as she thinks otherwise. No time the rescue truck turns up to drive her away as Lin heads back once more to his house. When he is heading towards the house, he is intercepted by his cousin who inquires why Yutang had been looking for him at school. Lin is not worried because his cousin continues pressurizing him to own up and informs him that people would rather do nothing with a husky fellow like him, and he should not provoke Yutang and cause any distress to their family. When Lin starts to exit, his cousin shouts that he will call his mom so Lin can be removed from the house, but Lin turns around and furious responds that this is also his house. His claim makes his cousin go crazy and he comes to slap Lin, but could not do so on the basis that Lin takes his hand, as the ruler wonders how a human would even try to slap him. Lin then pushes his cousin aside, who begins crying and asks for his father, saying that Lin bullied him. The man approaches and also tries to slap him, but Lin again takes his hand away and asks them not to bother with him anymore. The boy and the father are surprised with the attitude of Lin and ask for his auntie to approach and save them, stating they are beat up by Lin. When the lady arrives, she informs Lin that whatever he does to his elders, it is his mistake, so he ought to make amends. Lin is furious with his auntie being the main person to make a king apologize, and makes sure he will never apologize for something he did not do. His auntie does trim his holiday pocket money in the event that he had not apologized, but he is courageous by the dangers and simply goes to his bedroom. In the wake of going into the room, the ruler understands that he really wants to figure out how to bring in some cash and chooses to sell a portion of Lin's garments on the web, yet is irritated by the way of behaving of purchasers there. He becomes angry that a legend such as himself is hindered by economics and attempts an activity to recover some of his former heavenly power, but becomes exceedingly fatigued just after 3 minutes. He is subsequently called by Yuncho, informing him that his cousin and Yanhui will be on the climbing outing with them too, and requests him to accompany him alone some other day, but the sovereign informs him that he will be accompanying the outing the following day, unaware that self must not be bothered with worldly affairs. The next day, when Lin comes out of his room for breakfast, his cousin Zixuan once more starts bullying him by asking why he woke up so early, and on the slim possibility that Yanhai also greeted him, but Lin remains silent. The transport comes to take them for rock climbing, and Zixuan has to rush out of the house where Yanhai is already waiting for him along with the transport. He instructs Yanhai to hurry up, and when they are already on the transport, informs him that he is afraid due to the fact that Lin unleashed his anger on him last night, pushed him to the ground, and even fought with his dad. Yanhai warns them that they ought not to take Lin to the mountain at that time because of his attitude, but Yunshu reminds them that she had once embraced him. They start teasing Lin, threatening him on the likelihood that he would attempt climbing the mountain, but Yuncho interferes, and they must listen to her as she had planned the trip. Lin suddenly appears in the transport and is immediately approached by Yanhai, who tells him why he had bullied Zixuan. Yunshu immediately plays the hero, telling him that it was most likely a misunderstanding and invites him to take the seat in front of him. The convoy starts moving because the king doesn't want to be disappointed again. He suddenly notices a bicycle racing very, very fast along with the convoy, and it just stops before the convoy. They are totally surprised that the biker is their classmate Yutang, while Yunshu is angry that the lady is following Lin because she lost a game. Yunsho directly went to inquire of Yutang why she came there, to which Yutang says she must see Lin, and when she saw him, she immediately joked at him for being fat, making everyone laugh. She then tells Lin to accompany him to an internet cafe, not to accompany him to the mountain, and she will let him catch up with Yanhai, but Lin just tells her to leave him alone. Yutang is angered at this and bends down to ask him if he would ever fight with her or not. The king is astonished when he discovers that the mystical necklace Yutang is wearing has supernatural power, and although it is not enough, most likely it is made from the hands of a cultivator, but cannot be evil spirit worshipped on the basis that the process of refining is inhumanly brutal. Even without Yutang asking him once more whether he will play with her or not, Lin explains that he will bring her along after sneaking over the mountains, secretly hoping to encounter the masters of this world from her. Yunshu invites Yutang to go with them to sneak over the mountain, which she does, and sits beside Lin. She has him sit down and asks if he is adaptable, and she challenges him to play with her. Lin affirms she will play with him, but she believes she needs to vow to give him something in case he had won. They start to mock the game after setting their stipulations, as all the other individuals are envious of Lin because Yutang is just joking with him. The game is over very early as Lin again beats her and asks her to transfer him 10,000 bucks because it was his stipulation. She tells him that no issue at all, and she could give him more money from now on the basis of him being her saving partner, but he refuses and asks her to transfer him the money immediately only. Yutang hands the money to him and warns him not to buy the telephone in case she ever called him or didn't call her or provide her number to anyone else, while Lin is assuming he as a king is not so half as proud as the lady. Yutang then, however, vacates the seat citing that there is barely any room here, walks to the front, and proposes that Yanhai sit with Lin. Yanhai needs to get ready for war with Yutang but does not wish to upset her. She is rescued by Zixuan as he proposes that she sit with Lin in reference to the fact that he needed to tell her something. She assumes that she must make it clear that the marriage pact is a joke among their grandparents as Zixuan is delighted to have an opportunity to sit with Yutang. He tries to make conversation by talking about the games, but Yutang rudely tells him to shut up. The transport arrives where it is going soon, and all of the understudies are surprised to discover that the mountain is so tall and are wondering if they would attempt to climb that. The young men do not want to fall behind and move towards young women who promise to attempt to transport them in case they get tired. Yunshu insists on pumping and tells all of them to walk behind her so that they won't be left behind. The young men protest after 30 minutes of walking that they are exhausted, having Lin in shock that they are weaker than him. Lin walks once more thinking that if he were to regain his oneness, he will defeat them here for so long. Yunshu notices him climbing by himself and fears that no one thinks of him much, except she dreads going with him because she is the fury these days. As another 20 minutes elapse, Lin is struggling to climb and is irritated at how these men are bombastic, yet in reality, they are so in shape. Yunshu is miserable for him because she brought him here at last, comes to provide her assistance, but he refuses and invites her to go ahead and climb her path, saying that he can in any case continue on. The king reflects that this exhaustion isn't similar to the trial and agony he underwent to become king, and the subjects could not have conceived that. Yunshu proceeds after telling him to hold on tight for her in case he is unable to go any higher. Lin continues climbing, surprising everyone with his strength when he reaches the 2/3 of the way. Later, he is met by Yunshu and other women again, who says that they must go back here and dine at some cafe, but Lin is unwilling to accompany them, saying that he must witness the sight from there. Yunshu cares for himself and should have kept him back from heading there by himself. But various young women distract her away with the pretext that she should let him do whatever he must. Upon climbing for another 20 minutes, Lin finally reaches the top of the mountain, surprising Yutang, who had been waiting there drinking her drink. The ruler is happy after reaching the pinnacle because it has a lot of energy, even though for him it is almost nothing, but still he can practically start preparing again. He puts a blue stone in his hand and reminds himself that he defeated the Devil Master, and provided that he can just keep training, no matter how long it will be, he will return on top. He is interrupted by Yutang, who inquires about his well-being, which he just replied he is admiring the scenery. Yutang informs him that today she will let him go, but tomorrow he will be her sidekick, and departs, after she had left him half-eaten sandwich. Lin finishes eating the sandwich without being annoyed, as in his world, he would consume the corpses of the monsters for practice, and then proceeds with cleaning the marrow. As everyone is departing, Lin phones Yushu and informs her that this is wonderful, and he would spend some additional days here on special events of the year. Then phones his auntie and informs her something very much the same. After this, he rents a room in an inn for the subsequent 2 months and makes this effort practicing and crossing the mountain daily. 2 months went by and Yushu receives a call from Lin asking her to come and fetch him from the inn, where she readily agrees, happy to finally shake hands with him because she always used to get annoyed with him by Yutang. At the same time, after 2 months of intense training, Lin is now a charming individual from once being a chubby boy, but in his eyes, his supernatural ability is still slow, so he must still keep up being an ordinary secondary school student. Yushu comes back to take him to his accommodation and is surprised to see the new Lin, and thinks she has knocked on some unacceptable entrance. She apologizes hastily for her confusion, but is evidently affected by the good-looking man before her. She begins walking away and is accosted when Lin speaks to her and tells her she was dead on. She does not even know that he is Lin and asks him if he is a friend of Lin and informs her that he is Lin, but Yunshu actually thinks he is playing games with her. Lin is not happy with her face of surprise and informs her that there is no issue because he had just lost some weight and then started to exit the inn. With his calm attitude, Yunshu finally knows he is Lin and remembers she had said to him that even chubby people have a secret potential, but never thought it would become reality. Yunshu feels relieved to hear she never laughed at Lin while he was chubby, knowing it is a sign of how close they are today. She quickly catches up with him, offering to carry his offal for him, and even rushes to open the car door for him. Inside the car, she informs him that he is very handsome now that he has lost weight and informs him that Yanhui can get back to him now, but reminds him that he should not mind her or any woman like her because they will only look at him because of his physique. Lin simply asks her to shut up, regretting her decision from not accompanying him on the climbing earlier, but still believing she is most exceptionally considered on the list of people Lin admires. She proposes they take him out for dinner, but Lin informs her that he only wants to return home. When Lin returns home, his family assumes he is another man and asks how he returns home. And when he informs them that he is Lin, they assume that he is another man who has pretended to be Lin. His auntie asks him if he has plastic medical procedure, to which Lin replies that he cannot do it because she has all the money. Then if in fact he has the money for the semester, to which she says she will cover his examinations, but if he is rude to his and uncle again, his spending will be cut off immediately. The next day at school, nobody misses Lin, thinking that he is a pupil from another school, but all the girls are surprised by his good looks. Lin is uncomfortable with all the spotlight that he is receiving, and when he is performing math exceptionally, it might be a direct outcome of that enigmatic nature. Yutang joins his table while dragging Yunshu by her collar and asking her in anger where Lin is. Yunshu finally responds to him stating that he is Lin and he lost some weight, but Yutang feels that she is lying to him. Lin eventually emerges from that he is Lin and informs Yutang that she may make plans with him on the condition of the premise that she requires, and asks her to find him after class. Yutang is still hesitant to accept the fact that he is Lin, although Yunshu tells him that he lost weight by crossing over the mountain on a daily basis. Yutang once again doubts if really is the fat man, and her suspicions are aroused when he abruptly tells her not to refer to him as fat. Having established that he is in fact Lin, she tells him that she does not care as long as he is fat or thin. He wants to stay behind after today's lesson. Yutang recognizes that the individual she suspected a few days ago was some unknown person. Out of nowhere, she requested to act as Lin so she could shun Yutang. Upon hearing her deposition, Yutang becomes shocked by her resilience and leaves, saying she is the most trying individual she has ever met, and then leaves. Once Yutang has gone, the whole class, young ladies include Yunshu, asking her all about Lin and admiring his good looks. They are caught by the teacher entering the class, who reminds them to go back to their seats. The teacher too is amazed by Lin in his new appearance, but is able to suppress it and then asks if they have to switch seats. All the girls rush over quickly to beg to sit next to Lin, while Yunshu stands firm to sit there. They are quiet upon being scolded by the teacher, who moves the chairs on her own without anyone's assistance and seated a chubby child next to Lin, to his relief that he sat in silence finally with a seatmate. When the class ends, the girls once more close out for trying to make him waste his time with them in any way possible, but he discourages them harshly, saying to leave him alone, and exits the class. The girl continues fanning Lady over him even after he is gone and drives his cousin crazy by all the attention he is receiving. He undoubtedly excels at noon recess as Yunshu is seeking methods of astonishing him. In the afternoon, he is approached more closely by Yanhai, who has apologized for her past behavior by explaining she was simply shocked by the surprise news of the wedding, but he does not heed her and departs there. Lin is strolling on the ground with hope that nobody is on the housetop as he peeks and sees Zinni strutting in the same direction. Without knowing that she ought to be where he ought to have his location on the housetop, He starts strolling hurriedly even though he knows it is a piece whimsical, but he would not like to be outwitted by her. While so doing, Zinni notices him in pursuit of her and believes that he appears to be that obese man. As he is walking ahead of her at that time, she is relieved that he was not coming to meet her, but later realizes that he is heading in the direction of the rooftop as well. Zinni also starts to, uncertain to move to the front of the roof where Lin is. At the instant he observes her walking past him, he starts to move faster, without thinking that her space should be occupying his. Their serious sides emerge as they look at each other with the other person approaching from her side. They start running up the stairs, crossing over and over again, but no one should halt because they do not want to be defeated by the next human being. They reach the roof having run as much as they can upwards, commenting back and forth, and halting in the doorway. Lin learns the way of leaving first and occupies the housetop and recounts that his is the place now. Zinni blames him for groping her chest, but he slaps her instead and clarifies that he was the one who tried to push him with her chest. The ruler reminds himself that men in this world are weak and justifies his action of slapping the young lady. At the time when Zinni does not die thereafter and continues to attack him nevertheless, Lin means that he would report to the police. Zinni must defend herself again, but she remembers that women are dominating here in this world, and if she complained about him, nobody would believe her words against him. She shares with him that she will let him go this time, yet in the future she will be the one to come out on top in the race and leaves from that point. He feels relieved after she departs and decides to read the report on the report he was reading earlier today. He is shocked to learn the news that the majority of the chickens in a chicken farm pertaining to being affected with the disease have become desiccated corpses for the moment. He remembers the noble evil creature has the most vicious evil sword in the world, and whatever creature touches it will be digested deep inside. The image of the dead hen is due to all the reports given by an evil sword, but in the last battle, the heavenly devil finally burst the sword, shattering the emptiness, and his sword also burst to protect its master, and then he landed up here. He is realizing that the feared evil character might not be dead and remembers she murdered him to establish her powers, but he got immortal by knowing the path to paradise. But she on her side simply needs to murder to regain her power. He promises to not wait for the great devil to get her unity back, and decides to visit the chicken homestead to find out what happened. Once school is closed, Yunshu says she will accompany him to visit Yutang, but he promises he is not going there. She promises hurriedly to cover for him and would like to win him over, and agrees to his gratitude later. Lin enters the taxi to head to the chicken ranch outside the city still on air to send the malevolent entity, thinking that she is the one destined to bring this suffering whether his ghost gets injured in the process. As he manages to make a successful escape from the taxi in an extremely isolated area, he feels as if although he has used barely any energy in his spirit, today he can't survive without it. With his energy, he observes the house in front of him being overwhelmed with the evil presence energy that makes him think that admired devil has been successful. Abruptly there appears Yutang on her bike and inquires of him what he is doing there since she had just gotten there upon sighting him from a distance. Lin is amazed by her prompt arrival, having the feeling that it is not by chance that they should be together in nowhere. Lin informs her that he was in the taxi when he noticed the driver trying to take him elsewhere, so he stepped out of the taxi too. Which Yutang explains that he will be careful now since he is good-looking, that can cause women to approach him as youth gets dealt and stalled in the small towns. She then, at that time, offers him her cap, instructs him to put it on down, and afterwards walks after instructing him to stand where he was and wait for her, saying she will return after getting some orders. Lin thinks that even though she is human, she is walking according to satanic energies since where she is going is exactly where the devilish energy is, so he concludes that he will trail behind her secretly. Yutang proceeds to the homestead and an old man welcomes her and asks who she had come to look for. Later, Yutang pulls out a gun and points it at the woman, asserting that she possesses so much mental power not to flee after seeing her. The woman is frightened by the gun and warns Yutang to be careful when using it, saying that it is unlawful in that regard, but can only say as a practitioner that she should not talk about the law. The woman demands one last time that she is just a common rancher and tries to sneakily pulls out a knife hidden in her wrist. But Yutang notices this and shoots her hand to prevent her. She then takes her knife and admits to the lady to chats, but the lady assures her that she is definitely not an immoral farmer. And she used that tactic on her chickens because there is no ambience. Yutang answers that she is rifing chicken today, but tomorrow maybe she will do the same to human beings, and although she is growing only for a short period of time, she is yet powerful such that her authority is equal to that of a priest who is 10 years old. The woman turns to inform Yutang that he is right and she would have come up with it earlier, but is sure she can do it better as long as she had mastered her. The woman transforms into a beast, but Yutang is not faking and runs in pursuit of her. Lin, witnessing all this in silence, gets the feeling that the evil nature is exerting a type of Tha-like aura from an evil sword, and Yutang is in grave danger if it is so. Yutang gets shocked by the hellish environment as well and realizes that she will die if the beast can strike her, so she decides to use the soul sword charm on it. The beauty does not strike a bargain with the monster, and on reconsideration Yutang gets slapped, but just before the beast can further attack her, Lin intervenes,